with that exclusive breaking news in the Luigi Mangione case. Some details have emerged about his time in Asia and an alleged fascination with the man he's accused of executing on a Manhattan street. Look, when it comes to this particular defendant and the cold-blooded murder he's charged with, it seems there wasn't a whole lot of mystery left. It seemed. And I know he's pleaded not guilty, and he's even facing death. I mean, there is evidence all the way from New York to Altoona, Pennsylvania. But what this case lacks in mystery, it more than makes up for in mystique, something that is deepening tonight. And that is because this defendant, the curly-haired kid with the million-dollar smile and the family worth tens of millions, has somehow worked its way into the zeitgeist. The Ivy League-educated computer engineer who dabbled in philosophy, idolized the Unabomber, and had the world on a string, apparently chose to take out a fellow one-percenter, if the police are right. And if he did that, whatever it was that made him do that, he may have found a motive in Asia early last year. The New York Times has been tracing Luigi's footsteps across Thailand, Japan, and India beginning in February of 2024. That's the year that Brian Thompson was shot. But it's 10 months before the CEO of United Healthcare was murdered, right there on camera, West 54th Street. As it turns out, Luigi met two other Americans in Thailand at a bar in the middle of Bangkok's over-the-top party district. Christian Sacchini is an expatriate and a professional soccer player living there in Thailand who says that Luigi approached him and his friend because they were speaking English and Luigi had overheard them. The three men hung around for hours together and talked about everything from video games and volcanoes to, wait for it, the high cost of healthcare in America. You better believe that last little bit caught our attention, right? So we reached out to the Bangkok friends ourselves. And sure enough, Christian Sacchini told us even more about his night with Luigi Mangione, including a certain name that Luigi Mangione dropped that night that did not ring any bells at the time. But are you sitting down? Christian says his brand new acquaintance mentioned Brian Thompson. That's the CEO that Luigi allegedly shot to death just a few months later on that New York street. And I'm pleased to welcome Christian Sacchini now live from Thailand. Christian, thank you so much for joining me to talk about this case.
Okay, so it started, my friend from college was visiting me, and I wanted to show him around Bangkok, so I took him to a pretty busy nightlife area called Soy Cowboy. And we were walking around, and I chose to sit at a pub which had booths facing the street, so you could kind of people watch. So I approached the booth, and I saw Luigi. He was sitting on the corner, so I put about one or two booths of spacing, and I sat next with my friend. And we just started talking in English, and a couple of minutes later, Luigi kind of introduced myself, and he asked, hey, where are you guys from? So we just started having conversation. I said I was from the U.S. We were both from Texas. But I said my parents live in Alexandria, Virginia, so I go back there when I'm in the U.S. And he said he was from Maryland, so we quickly had a good connection. I asked him, like, well, what are you doing here? How long have you been here? And he said he was just vacationing around Asia. He asked us what we were doing here in Thailand, and I said I played here and lived in Bangkok, and I play soccer professionally, and my friend was just visiting me. So the more we started talking, I asked him, he mentioned that he had graduated, and I mentioned that I had dropped out to pursue soccer. I asked him what he graduated in. He said computer science, and I immediately had a connection because that's what I was studying when I attended university. So I asked him what he would recommend I go into specifically for computer science, and he was very eager to say AI. And he said it would be the next big thing. And the way he spoke about it, he seemed very intelligent about it. So I absolutely took his word and believed him. So we started talking more. We were having
I was just going to jump in there because I'm curious about how the conversation went from that very innocuous, set of topics to greedy CEOs and then eventually to the name Brian Thompson. Take me to that moment.
Yeah, so he asked me about, because I told him I had been living there at the time for about 3.5, 4 years in Thailand, and he asked me about my life, how I liked it over here, and I kind of went on a little rant. I said, well, I love it here. The price of rent, of food, of travel, of staying in hotels, of taxis, everything was incredibly cheap. And then I mentioned a story about how I had a pretty bad knee injury that happened to me during a soccer game, and I went to the hospital. I got it checked out. I got an MRI. I got an X-ray. I got prescribed pain medication to help with the pain. And I told him I had no insurance. I received the bill at the end of all that, and it was about $180 to $200, somewhere in that range. And when that happened to me, I couldn't believe it. And I told this story to Luigi, and he couldn't believe it either. I remember telling him also my younger brother is a nurse, and I sent him a picture of the receipt, and I told my brother, and he was also in shock. So it was a huge moment where he just couldn't believe how inexpensive things were without any insurance at all over here in Thailand.
I'm going to divert a little bit from the healthcare conversation, only because I want to show that your communications and communications with your friend and Luigi continued from this night. He eventually would communicate with your friend and tell your friend about an attack by, I think, what he called ladyboys. Those are trans male, often sex workers in these areas in Bangkok. But he not only told your friend about an attack, he sent a picture. Can you describe that?
Yeah, so the picture, maybe some articles have exaggerated a little bit, but it said he was beat up by ladyboys. From the picture that I saw and I remember, it was maybe a couple scratches on his arm and then a red mark on his face that was nowhere near, it wasn't a bruise or a black eye. It was just a very slightly red mark. So it wasn't anything brutal or like he got beat up. But you could see that he had suffered some kind of
he did
small
say
injury.
He had actually described this attack, and I'm not sure what led up to it, but with the photo and the description, can you surmise what it was that led to this fight?
So I know that Luigi returned to the same exact bar the very next day, and he sat at the same stool. He told my friend, but I could not tell you exactly what prompted him to or what he did to get attacked. I don't know those details.
So moving back to this conversation about greedy CEOs and the mention of Brian Thompson's name, that just, I mean, the hair stood up on my neck when I heard that, because this is what I think March of 2024. And then, of course, the killing of Brian Thompson was in December of the same year. Have the police talked to you about your conversations in the bar that night with Luigi?
No authorities have contacted me. It's only been journalism and news outlets.
Do you find that surprising, given the fact that this is extraordinary information many months prior to the actual murder?
Yeah, I thought it was. My friend was a little bit more nervous than I was, but I think, in my opinion, there was just too much time from March to December that can go through a person's mind. A lot can change, so I wasn't very too nervous about maybe having to speak with authorities or something of that manner.
And then, just to be clear, has your friend been approached by authorities or told this story to the police investigating the murder?
I don't know if he's spoken to authorities, but he has spoken to many more news outlets, because he was wearing a GoPro that night, and he has footage and video, audio, and all that. So he has way more people have approached him than I have.
Let me back you up on that one for a second. Did you just say that he was wearing a GoPro, and so this whole conversation with Luigi Mangione was captured on video?
He does not have the entirety of the conversation, because there were moments where he would turn it off and set it aside. But while we were walking and going from place to place, he had it on and off. So it wasn't the entire duration of us with Luigi that he had it on.
Do you know if those moments where he talked about Brian Thompson were captured on video in the pub?
I believe they were not, because when we were at the pub, he had set the GoPro down on the table. So he would turn it on when we were walking from place to place.
Well, that's a bummer. So let me ask you this. At the time, the name Brian Thompson wouldn't have been significant, but several months later, you heard about Brian Thompson, the CEO of United Healthcare, being shot dead, execution style, by a shadowy figure on the streets of Manhattan. Did it cross your mind that it might have been Luigi Mangione?
Oh, never, never. I did not. I really wasn't paying so much attention to the story at the time because, I was in Thailand. But once I saw the picture, that's what really triggered it for me. Wow, I met this guy. I couldn't believe it.
That's my next question. Once you did put two and two together and you heard about Luigi Mangione and you saw his picture, were you shocked, or did red flags come back about your conversations?
I couldn't believe it. Extremely shocked.
So when you think back about the guy you met and, spent a fair bit of time that evening with, and then your friend continued, many conversations thereafter, was there anything that you can think of that led you to think, I should have maybe thought more about that, or that suggested he had, a violent tendency, or he looked like he was deranged, or it looked like he might do something about these people and the issues he was talking about?
No, it was so unexpected. The way we talked for hours and had some beers together, Luigi struck me as someone who's just very laid back, chill, and he seemed very intelligent, of course, and someone that would have a bright future ahead of him. It just would not make sense for him to do such a thing. So I would have never guessed that it would have been him, or he would be accused of this, or he would be capable of something like this.
Sure. And then so when you heard his name and saw his picture, did you think they've got the wrong guy?
I mean, his face was just spot on. Maybe they could have gotten the wrong guy. Yes, I heard a lot of rumors about it's not the same person. The eyebrows are different and all that. But I mean, the more pictures I saw of him, the more I could confirm that it is him from, different angles or whatever. But it certainly is him. The other moment that really I knew it was him was when he was showing pictures on his phone about him in Hawaii, and this one iconic picture that's always has been very popular is of him without a shirt on top of the mountain in Hawaii. He showed me that on his phone, and that was another moment where it was just confirmation that was him.
Christian, based on your conversations with him that night in March, 9 months before the murder, do you think he was capable of being the guy that did this to Brian Thompson, that murdered Brian Thompson?
I did not think he would be capable of that, no.
Christian Sacchini, your story is so incredible, and I'm so appreciative that you're sharing it with us tonight. Thank you so much for this. I know it's a big time delay and distance, and so I'm very thankful.
Thank you guys for having me. It was a pleasure talking. Thank you.
The pleasure was ours. That's Christian Sacchini joining us from Thailand tonight with some remarkable details about meeting Luigi Mangione and hearing his beef with CEOs who he said were greedy, and Brian Thompson in particular, 9 months before the murder.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.